Hello, this is John with Coach.win and EntreSmart. I'm super excited to have one of my good friends, Byron McFarland, with me to talk about a couple of really important topics, I think, in strategy planning, in getting the most out of your business, which are a couple things around owner mindset, buy-in, and expectancy theory. So I'm not going to get too much into it. Byron, I want to start with the owner's mindset concept. I run into all the time with my leaders that God, I wish everyone would just act like an owner, but it's just been hard for them to understand that. Tell me how you came about this whole concept of owner's mindset. You have a long history of dealing with business owners as well.
Oh, hey, John, good to see you again. Thanks for the invitation. And what a transition from the owner's mindset. It was a result of me being asked by business owners who wanted to sell their company to their management team, but they didn't know how to go about evaluating them. So they would get referred to me or see me at a webinar or workshop, and they would ask if I would be willing to assess their team to determine whether or not they were capable of running their company and selling a banker that they could repay a loan. So that was the origin. Was there was a lot of uncertainty as to what does it take to actually run a company, and let's hire an outside advisor to assess their capabilities. And so I did that for years, just trying to figure out what it was that it took, and then here coincidentally in looking up some other psychological concepts, because I'm curious as to what it takes to motivate people, I stumbled onto this construct called organizational citizenship behavior. Big term. What it did is it just evaluated employees' willingness to perform roles outside their core job function. And when you think about owners spend majority of their time outside their core job function, mentoring, coaching, whoever needs help, filling in where people need help. They're out in the community talking about their business. They're participating in the organizational initiatives. They're just doing all sorts of things. And so what these psychologists were able to do was come up with an assessment tool that I've called the ownership mindset assessment, and just assess your team on how well they function outside their core job function.
Yeah, what a great. And I was privileged enough to watch Byron speak about this at a couple of entrepreneur organization events lately, and the workshop is just super powerful and watching people's reaction to it. So let's take them through the kind of five key areas that what you see when people are acting with that owner's mindset that they're talking about. So once you walk through them, and we can start with the altruism, but I'll let you just kind of run with it and talk about the five characters and how they kind of show up in the real world when people are thinking about it. So uh, fire away on the five areas.
So these behavioral psychologists who are practicing in commercial operating companies, they organize these five categories according to clusters of behavior. And altruism is the first one, and that is to the extent that I'm willing to support other people who are outside my department, mentor someone, coach, make somebody feel connected to the organization. That's something that an owner would do. An owner wouldn't walk past a struggling employee. They would stop and try to figure out what it is they're struggling with, and perhaps give them some guidance and help them do it the right way, and then go on about their job. And employees who do that willingly, other than say the manager overseeing his direct reports, that's an owner's behavior, is to help people outside your chain of command. So it all starts with that willingness to help other people in the organization, which is really kind of symptomatic of a healthy community or a healthy family. You don't let your sister or brother or cousin or uncle suffer unnecessarily if you can help them. And it's tends to be the same way in communities in business. So that willingness to help others is really important.
Yeah,
The
yeah, that
second,
just reminds me real quick,
yeah,
just reminds me, just thinking back to my company, you think of I owned a company for 19 years. I mean, just as you explained that, you just knew the people that, yeah, you'd see them go from finance, that's their role. They'd be back in the warehouse. They would help getting prep for a sales meeting that's being held in town. They do whatever, right? They just wanted to make sure the company and everyone was successful.
That's it. That's exactly what an owner, that was how an owner would act. They don't want any department in their company to be weak or fail. So
Yep,
yeah,
I like it.
you saw it. And then the second one is conscientiousness, which you would have more experience at that in your role as a coach. And that you think about it, you facilitate these planning meetings and you break the goals down into quarterly initiatives, and then you assign somebody to own the quarterly initiative and maybe the goal, and then you show up periodically to facilitate a progress meeting, and the people that that consistently deliver results, that's pretty consistent with a hungry owner. Now I've seen, we could probably agree that not all owners are still burning the candle at both ends. But if you think about startup owners and owners who have a
Yeah.
lot of debt, they want to get stuff done.
Yeah, totally true. Yeah, the owners that are very engaged, and definitely if they have debt or they're getting to that next level, they're all in and they're conscientious about making sure their stuff's getting done on a timely basis.
That's right. And I'm not going to talk about the other attributes of conscientiousness
Mm.
because they tend to put kind of a question mark as well. Do all owners behave this way? Which is timeliness and follow up. And so again, there's exceptions to everything, but by and large, if an owner is focused on a big problem, they're very conscientious about how they show up. And then the third one is sportsmanship. And when you were doing your planning, you ever run into a situation where priorities shift and now the person who had a priority that's no longer necessary, maybe isn't as important as it was the previous period, is now like, well, hold it, what about my problem, what about my priority? And they dig in and resist. You ever encounter that in your planning?
Yeah, absolutely, yes. Yeah, they just think theirs is the most important, right?
Right. Well, if you think about it, the owner mindset and practice is the owner understands that priorities shift, and we need to allocate resources based on the problem we're dealing with now. And so they're looking for everybody to kind of come along like, hey, don't you see it the way I see it? Don't you see where we need to make this change and allocating resources because this new problem come up? And those who have sportsmanship as a competency go, yes, coach, I see that. We need to change how we're doing things. And heck yeah, let's get behind it and get going on it. Whereas those who say, man, things are always changing around here and nothing ever stays the same. And, they resist the dynamic that exists in small and medium sized business.
Yeah, it's a little bit of the "Who Moved My Cheese" book, right? Like the ones that are all in and ready to go to where the cheese is, versus the ones that kind of hang out for the old where the cheese
Right.
was.
Yeah. Don't move the wheel of cheese around.
Yeah, exactly. Great. No, I like that one a lot.
Yeah. And then the next one is common courtesy. And courtesy in this context is not siloing information and not using information as power that gives you authority in the organization. Courtesy would be, we're doing something over here in my department, and I know it's going to affect John and his department. So I'm going to step across the hall, go over to John and say, hey, John, we're doing something that's probably going to affect the way you guys perform for a little while. I wanted you to know about it. Do you have any thoughts on how we could go about working through that? And then really getting buy-in on the forces that are at play that could affect how various departments work together or get into conflict. I don't know. Do you ever run into any silo thinking in your
Yeah,
business
I mean,
services?
there was some in my business, and I tell you, the one that quickly jumped out is when I got purchased by a larger corporation that had six different revenue streams, but with common back office, by common IT, common HR. Often, because there wasn't courtesy at some levels, like all of a sudden one of my projects got delayed without anyone even bringing it up to me, and all of a sudden I'm my client's expecting something due, tomorrow, and I check in, a couple days ago, and they're like, "Oh, sorry, that got put on hold 4 weeks ago." I'm like, "What? That's not good for me." And now they didn't have the courtesy wasn't set up in that culture to deal with that, and became a real challenge.
Well, courtesy tends to be being responsive and letting people know what's going on. Because absence of understanding usually creates misunderstanding, and that misunderstanding can evolve into something that it really wasn't intended to be. We want to turn a mountain into a molehill, just don't talk about it.
Yeah, right.
Or
Exactly.
a
Exactly.
molehill into a mountain
Oh,
is
yeah,
what I
into a
should have
mountain.
said.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
So that's courtesy. And then the fifth one is the civic virtue, which is around the willingness of the individual to participate in the organization. So you have organization has an event, and they're asking people to show up. We're inviting you. It's a voluntary event. We'd like you to show up. We're going to be out in the community. We'd like to have some, meaningful representation of our organization at this event. Like, I got an example of a company that's in the tree business over in Des Moines where they all showed up at the county fair, and they all
Mm,
wore company, company colors, so that they all did something that was good for the organization out in the community. So that's that civic virtue, that willingness to participate. Like little things, like if the company has gear that they offer, willingness to wear the company brand when you're out and about, just participating in the company things. And I used to literally identify my marketplace by the type of clothes the owner wore. And people would say, well, what kind of company do you really like to work with? And I said, I like to work with company where the owner wears a shirt with their name on it,
yeah.
because they're wearing the company shirt with their name on it. It just spoke to me. And it comes back from my fairly, blue collar upbringing. And so I
Yeah.
felt more comfortable with that. But that was literally a way of identifying the kind of people that I tended to get along with really well. So
That's
civic
awesome.
virtue would be participating in company events, speaking up, saying, "Hey, I see something. I like to talk, get to somebody's attention." Picking up. I see this in a restaurant. You see something on the floor, and I want to pick it up. I literally
Yeah.
want a napkin. I see a napkin on the floor. I'll probably pick it up. I don't own the restaurant, but I just can't help myself. So people who do that tend to have that civic virtue and are looking out for the greater good of the organization. So those are the five categories of behaviors that would be consistent with ownership. Now, people are going to hear this and go, well, what about grit? And what about drive? And what about willingness to take a risk? No doubt, those are essential to be self-employed. But for this purpose here, what we're really wanting the business owners to focus on is who in my organization is a threat to become self-employed.
Mm,
And it tends to be the people that possess these five competency groups, because they act like owners already. Now, some people act like owners and they're never going to take a risk, but other people are more willing to take a risk. So much so right now that entrepreneurship and the willingness to take risks in it are at an all-time high. There was over 5.5 million new businesses applied for last year.
it's interesting. I got you speak like about 6 months ago or so in Seattle, and you brought up some of this, and then I'm with a lot of leadership teams. I'm either in the quarterly planning meetings, or sometimes I'm even in their weekly executive team meeting, and we always do wins, business and personal. And after you told me about this, I'm listening for like the wins that are personal, and some of them, a decent percentage, are like, oh, our little side gig is doing our like we, and I'm like, oh, interesting. Like they're not even afraid to mention it. I think 25 years ago, if you said you had a side gig, people would be like, wait a minute, you're supposed to be 100% all in, right? Now these people are like comfortable measuring it, and therefore there's a passion they have, and they are at risk of doing something else. I think you've also mentioned something about how private equity starts to play into finding these people as well.
Well, yes. So solopreneurs, like the most, I think it's probably the most prominent new coaching consulting service that's available is to help people build up their side hustle into a business that they can ultimately go out and work at full time. 41% of surveyed millennials and Gen Zs have a side hustle.
That's incredible.
And if you're hearing that in the senior leadership team meeting, wow, that's transformational willingness to be transparent, and that I'm doing something already that's possibly going to put me at odds with my commitment in the organization.
Yeah.
So identifying those people early so that you can anticipate their tendencies is important. And you mentioned private equity. For the people that are acting like owners and are making an impact in your organization, but you're looking at and you're saying, well, they're probably not courageous enough to go out and start their own deal, or they've not suggested or mentioned that they've got a side business. They will be very attractive though to private equity backed enterprises. What is a private equity backed enterprise's plan? Double, triple, quadruple, whatever, 5x the operational results of that business. Well, they're going to have to they have to bring people in to do that. And where are they going to get them? They're going to get them from the privately held small business competitor in that market. And what are they going to use to attract those individuals who are acting like owners and playing a senior position? They're going to use equity, whether it's phantom stock, regular restricted stock, stock options, or stock appreciation rights. But those are the people that private equity is after, the ones who are in a senior leadership position and acting like owners.
Yeah, and just again, triggering back thoughts. 20, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, I could probably, I'm in Omaha, Nebraska at the time. Uh, I could probably name one private equity firm in Omaha, Nebraska 25 years ago. Now I can name dozens, like, and all different niches. Some are ag tech, some are, medical, some are people, some are generic. But imagine all those people that are connected with leaders in Omaha, Nebraska that are asking around for, I need a good COO, I need a good CFO, I need a good leader. And people that are showing that owner's mindset, those are the ones they're going to want to go pull.
They're even going down into the operational field level in these personal home service businesses like lawn care and trees and abatement and all that stuff, because that's where the problem exists, is that the people that
Mm,
are overseeing the people doing the work day to day.
get it.
So I
So,
think I think
Byron, this
80% of private equity firms offer equity to the people that they're trying to attract.
incredible. So people hearing this, listen to this. Obviously, there's kind of two different groups of people. Probably the ones you have in your at all levels. It sounds like all levels. You could use this assessment tool that you have. These five criteria. So, do you recommend people do that? And then, can you just share how you think about it? Because I know you've been asked before how to interview for these types of traits.
Yeah. So how would you go about using it in your existing cohort, and then how could it be used in interviewing? It's a big question, deep answers. I'm just going to keep it at the highest level. Is that I would start off with just evaluating the people that are in the immediate reports to the owner. Who
Okay.
do I who do I see every day and have a sense of how they're functioning? Because you really need to see somebody's behavior over a period of time to be able to answer these questions. They're not rocket surgery type questions. They're more of, what do you see people doing? And so
Yeah.
if you don't have a line of sight into them, it's pretty hard to evaluate them. So I would suggest start off owner to supervisor, owner to executive. And then if you have a partner, you might do owner to owner. And are we showing up like owners? Now you might say,
That's a great
hey,
idea.
I've got other people doing that work. Well, there's still opportunity for you to support other people. There's still opportunity for you to demonstrate your civic virtue by showing up to meetings. There's still opportunity for you to be at things on time. So,
Yeah, for
you
sure.
know how that can be. But so for using it for the existing group, I would say start at the top and do peer to peer and owner to supervisor, and you can do supervisor back up to owner and really get a robust I think it would be a really robust discussion in a quarterly planning session like team health. Be
Yes.
perfect for a team health exercise.
It'd be a
So
fantastic team health exercise. That's a great takeaway. I like that. And then what about the hiring side? You're planning on hiring some people, and you want to kind of hopefully find some people with owner's mindset.
yeah, the probably the best hiring resource I've seen in my 20 some years of doing this is Who, the book Who, where you're
Hmm.
really trying to unpack the past and have people tell me about a time. That's like all the questions are, tell me about a time when you mentored somebody that wasn't in your direct report. Tell me about a time when you tried to prevent a problem with coworkers that weren't working directly for you.
Yeah.
You know, things like that. So you could use the the behaviors as a way to have them reveal to you experiences because they're really not going to know where you're coming from. And
No.
so they're going to, chances are they're going to answer honestly. So that's how I would
Yeah.
use it, is tell me about a time. And then I would insert the key questions from the assessment.
Yeah. I mean, I would think you like for something because you know the people that go both ways. Hey, tell me about the last company you worked at. What kind of like fun committee events or community events did they do? Tell me which ones you enjoyed. And you know there'd be some people like I wasn't into those. Right?
Yeah.
Versus other people like, oh my gosh, we went and did a scavenger hunt downtown. We went to 20 locations. It was a blast. We all had our team colors on. We broke up and
Right.
you will just be able to tell. You'll be able to tell, are they into it or out of it, right? Very easily.
Yeah. Tell me about a time you did something that you really didn't feel like doing, but you knew it was in the best interest of the organization. Yeah, I
That's
wore the
great.
pink shirt to the county fair.
Yep. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing all about this owner's mindset, OCB, and the five key traits. I think it's a powerful takeaway. I think there's powerful uses for it for businesses at all levels, at all sizes, the size of the company and depth of the company eventually of where they are to understand these people. So I do want to pivot a little bit to your other topic that I found just fascinating, this concept of expectancy theory and just
Yeah.
understanding, we set up annual goals, 3-year goals, annual goals, quarterly goals. Um, and the idea of like, how do we know whether or not they're going to be successful potentially? And you came up with or you at least found a good concept called the expectancy theory. Tell me more about how that evolved.
Well, again, most things come from frustration and you just start looking. And I believe that once you commit to something and stop holding back, resources tend to come to your aid. So my commitment was, I was trying to figure out, how do I make incentive plans work? Business owner has a problem. I'd sure like to have these goals achieved, but I can't figure out how to motivate my team. I've tried bonuses, I've tried contests, being in the sales organization, contests tend to be the go to for that. I've tried things, but I just can't seem to keep people motivated over a long period of time. And I'm like, man, I get it. It's really tough to keep people motivated. So, in my efforts to answer the question, how do you motivate someone? I came upon this psychological construct that was created back in the 60s called expectancy theory. And it's the result of research that was done by a organizational psychologist by the name of Victor Vroom, where he was able to come up with a formula that would allow you to predict the likelihood of someone actually pursuing the goal. And so that formula is what we apply now to these incentive plans. So it's makes the guesswork kind of less significant in the plan design. Like, we think this will work too. Hey, let's ask the participant on a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you that you can actually achieve this goal? Well, they're going through in their mind, do I have the right resources? People, do I have the right resources? Market, do I have the right resources? Equipment, you know, do I have the right resources? Experience. And then, to the extent that this is going to be challenging, how confident am I in myself based on my past experience? So that whole catalog of self-assessment evaluations are going on. And now they're looking at you and the other members of the leadership team and they're going, oh, yeah, I can do that. You ever hear that, John?
Yeah, absolutely. Yep, no problem. I'll get it done.
Right. So then let's say that you were looking at me and I said, John, based on your experience of me, do you believe I have the confidence? John, based on your experience of me, do you think I have the professional experience? And John, based upon your understanding of all the resources that are available in this organization, do you believe I have the right team, the right equipment, the right technology, the right access to the market, whatever it is that's going to be needed? And you could then answer that honestly. And you answer each one of those questions in a scale of 1 to 10. And then you average the result. 3 questions, average the result. And you say, okay, basically on a scale of 1 to 10, Byron, I believe that's probably going to be a 7 or an 8. I'm like,
Yeah.
great. Well, then what? Well, then we go to the next one, which is, do I, as the person who's being asked to do the thing, do I believe we will agree that the goal was accomplished? And the way you do that is to agree on a number. That's really the only way to agree that a goal has been accomplished, is we agree in advance the number. All sports relies on one thing, number. Every game has a score. It doesn't say how well they played it. It doesn't say how good of a sportsman they were. It doesn't say how cheerful they were during the stress. They just ask, what was the score? And so
Yep.
that goal, we need to agree that goal has actually been achieved, and that's a score. And if we can agree that that score is this, we agree that together, you and I, that score is the way of measuring it, then we'll have a high degree of confidence that you'll actually pay me the reward if I hit it. And then the third is that reward that I'm going to get meaningful enough to me to make sacrifice? And that's where it comes into life experience. Like, have I done this? Have I received rewards like this in the past? Is this reward big enough for the time challenge I might have in pursuing it? I might have to travel. If I have young children or other competing interests, am I going to sacrifice relationships? So the more sacrifice that the person has, the bigger the reward needs to be. So what we do is we take all 3 of those variables. Do I believe I can do it? Do I believe that we'll agree that if I did that I did it when it was done, the goal is clear? And do I believe that the reward is meaningful? We multiply belief of ability, belief that it's going to be paid, times belief that the reward is meaningful. We come up with a score. 10 times 10 times 10 in each one of those 3 categories is 1,000. Well, like giving you that example, when you did the evaluation on me and said, Byron, I think it's probably a 7 or an 8. Let's say it's a 7.5. 7.5 times 10 times 10 is 750. Well, now there's
Yeah.
a lot less likely that goal is going to be achieved. So what I would
Absolutely.
suggest that coaches do or business owners do is ask the 3 questions about the belief and their ability to do the work. Do you believe you have the resources? Then have everybody in the SLT do the same thing. Do you believe this person has the resources necessary? Do you believe they have the experience? Do you believe they have the commitment, the drive, the vigor to get it done? And that's really probably the only one an owner would need to worry about, because the second
Agreed.
category can be, let's write down the goal. The third category is, we got to think about the reward, which is totally different. But if they just focus on the belief, can I do it? Then you're going to have a far different experience at the end of your planning session. I bet that if you waited till the end of the planning session to rank how confident we are in that, you'd end up spending another day talking about the issues that came up as a result of that.
Yeah, I mean, ever since you mentioned this thing to me, I think after the day, annual planning, that first day is to kind of come up with the potential 3 to 5, 7 big goals for the next year. I think right at the end of that first day, before you build them out, you'd be able to do this assessment. And, if two of them or three of them were, 70% or less, like, hey, do we need to postpone because it's a bandwidth issue? Do we need to have a different plan on hiring or giving more resources? Whatever it is, just by using those three, I think it'd be super powerful, and I'm looking forward to doing it in my annual plannings coming up after the day one, because I think we can right then decide how serious are we that we're going to hit these goals, or look for issues of holding us back from hitting those goals. And when we build it out, therefore, have a much better plan to execute to have that expected result be a lot higher.
I I predict when you do that, that you end up changing some of the goals because now you've identified resource deficiencies that are that no one is really talking about, but are meaningful, and that they are getting in the way of actual performance that is really important. And that if you took the time to identify these 5 things and 2 or 3 of them are getting 6 or 7s, wow, that's a whole issue right there. What's going on there?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other one that just resonates with me, I love sales and sales stuff. And often you are asking salespeople to do a lot of sacrificing.
Yeah.
And that reward does have to be meaningful. I mean, I remember back with my salespeople, especially a lot of them are young with young families. If the difference was going from 100 to, man, if they hit a Super Bowl goal and they do really well, they make 120,000. It did not resonate. It resonated a little bit with them, like, oh, that'd be nice, but it didn't resonate with the spouse, and the spouse with the kid at home or 2 kids at home. It just didn't resonate. Versus when I could show, like, hey, it's measurable for sure, that middle one. But two, we could have you move from 100,000 to 200,000 to 250,000 by hitting these goals. I believe in you. I'll give you the resources to do it. You're going to be on the road Tuesday through Thursday, 3 times a month, right? It's going to be a big sacrifice for the home life. But literally, quarter after quarter, you can start to change your financial outcome for those kids' college, for those kids. You could get the spouse involved. You could, and almost the spouse became a support structure for that, because everyone saw it, they believed in it, they could measure it, and it would change their lives. And they would go really hard. But when I had it like just small reward, they made that calculation. I could watch it happen. Like, I'm not going to spend that much extra time on the road for 20 grand. Like, wasn't worth it. You get to 60, 80, 100 grand, the wheels changed in their mindset. Like, that is a meaningful reward. So I really like how you talked about that. And it's important to watch people's reaction as you're communicating rewards. Because sometimes you can just tell, like, almost they're not that excited about it.
Well, I've experienced that business owners, when they're determining how much they're going to reward someone for some contribution, they make 2 mistakes. One is they look at the reward as being something that's going to come from current profits, and they compare it to the current profits and the impact on the profits. And they go, how much am I willing to put towards that? Which I see as a mistake, because if you are pursuing something that's meaningful for the organization, it's going to impact business value. And business
Yes.
value is a multiple of profits. So if you can reward someone to help you get to a new level of performance and sustain that, and your business is selling at a multiple of 6 or 8 times profits, and now you've added another 300,000, $300,000 in profit in year one, that's now maybe sustainable, you've added $2 million to $2.5 million in value. How much of that value would you be willing to share if you could get it, if you could have that happen? That's the way that to get the owner thinking is, how's this going to impact sustainable business value? And then the second mistake they make is they guess what's important to the participant, as opposed to finding out what's important to the participant by asking. And if you have a young family and you're mortgaged and you're paying for daycare and all that stuff, then money matters. And if you can
Yeah.
provide relief to the daily living expense, like getting a daycare provider and helping the daycare, getting a housekeeper to go in and take care of the house for the widow, for the wife, etc., those are just examples of personal touches that an owner can provide to participants that enhance the quality of their life. And we encourage our owners, ask your people what's important to them. Ask them why they are willing to sacrifice for your organization. Ask them what would need to happen in order for them to have the best year ever in their relationship with you, and then design the reward based on what you've learned. So
I love it.
one, look at
I
value, and two,
Yep.
try to figure out what it's going to take for them to buy into what you want to do.
Yeah. A friend of mine, I won't mention, but the industry sold 1-year contracts, but their average client stayed for 7 years at least, and they got sold on a multiple of revenue. So that was their business value calculation. And he wanted to grow and grow fast and he need great salespeople to go hunt and close. Well, the industry was on average paying 1 month or max 2 months of revenue as the commission. He just switched it up and he paid the first 6 months of revenue, he paid them as commission. And everyone was like, but you're not make any dollars for 6 months on that contract. He goes, you're right. I'm going to lose money on all of it, but I'll break even kind of by the end of the year because they have a 1-year contract. But they stay for 7 years and I'm going to sell for 7 to 10 times revenue stream in the next 5 or 6 years. So I did, well, guess what happened? Not only did his couple salespeople he had that he put on there start to do really well, but guess what else he attracted across the whole community? All the best salespeople.
Exactly. Yeah.
and he had a great 5-year run and he had a great exit. And,
And that
because the
speaks,
company was just paying for the revenue.
yeah, that speaks to the owner being clear on their vision for the business and what they want to have happen, and then taking that vision and assigning some of that value to the people that are going to make it happen and having them buy into the outcome willingly.
Yeah. Well, for people who've been listening to this and they're like, I'm interested in learning more. I'm interested in maybe even connecting with you for both the owner's mindset assessment, the expectancy theory concept. Tell them what is the best way to get a hold of Byron McFarland.
Well, my website is the McFarland Group .com, and on there's a contact me, and there's a calendar link. So you can either put your name in there and contact me, or B, just go in and schedule. Or you could go to LinkedIn at Byron K. McFarland, message me, and I'll get back to you and we can talk either through LinkedIn or get on a Teams meeting or a phone call. So those would be
That's
the
great.
two
Well,
most common ways.
that's awesome. And people can get a hold of me, John Lund at EntreSmart or either Coach.win. You can follow us on LinkedIn. We share a lot of great things. We love sharing things from other people we respect, like Byron McFarland, of what we do, and love sharing this because I think it's so important for small businesses and small business owners to understand these concepts. So appreciate your time today, Byron.
Yeah, me too.